Okay, so remember when that crazy headline popped up? The one about the US wanting to buy Greenland? Yeah, pretty much everyone thought it was a joke, right? Well, it turns out it wasn't. Behind that one headline, there's this incredible story about maps that are lying to us, a super dangerous power vacuum, and a high-stakes chess game for control of the entire Arctic. So let's get into it and uncover why America is really so obsessed with this giant island of ice.
I mean, the whole world was asking the same thing. A giant island of ice for sale? Why in the world would anyone want to buy Greenland? It seems so far away, so empty. But you know what? That's exactly where the story gets really, really interesting. Because what we think we know about Greenland is just plain wrong.
And look, on the surface you can see why. It's technically a Danish territory, but for most people in Denmark, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. We're talking about a vast, frozen land with a population of just 50,000 people. That's about the size of a small American town, and most of them are fishermen living in this incredibly tough environment, where basically nothing grows.
All right, now we get to our first big reveal, and it starts with something you and I look at all the time, a world map. But what if I told you that map has been misleading us about Greenland this whole time?
Just picture any standard flat map, the kind you'd see in a classroom or even on Google Maps. On that map, Greenland looks absolutely enormous, almost the size of Africa. And it seems like it's just floating up there somewhere near the UK, like it's a part of Europe.
But here's the thing. A flat map is just a warped projection of a round planet. When you actually look at a globe, the kind that shows the world as it really is, the picture just completely changes. And this, right here, is the first piece of the entire puzzle. So check this out. On the left, that's our perception from the flat map, but on the right, that's the reality. Greenland isn't some distant part of Europe, it's literally Canada's next-door neighbor. It's not a continent, it's about 3 times the size of Texas. Huge for sure, but not a continent. And this is the most important part. It's not distant and isolated. It is right there, right on North America's doorstep. And that one geographic truth changes absolutely everything.
So if Greenland is right next door, why does that suddenly matter so much? Well, it's because a really dangerous power vacuum is starting to form there, and the stakes are getting higher and higher every single year. Here is the problem in a nutshell. Greenland can't support itself financially, not even close. A whopping 60% of its entire government budget comes directly from Denmark as a subsidy. Without that money, it would be basically impossible to run the schools, the hospitals, all the infrastructure needed for those 50,000 residents to live there. This financial dependency, it's a massive vulnerability.
And at the exact same time, there's this huge political shift happening. For about the last decade, a movement for full independence from Denmark has been getting stronger and stronger. But if they go independent, those Danish subsidies get cut off. And this is the really crucial part, they would also leave the military protection of the NATO alliance.
Now, for the United States, this creates an absolute nightmare scenario. Let's walk through the dominoes. Step 1. Greenland votes for independence. Step 2. It's suddenly on its own. No money, no army. Step 3. China and Russia, who are desperate for a foothold in the Arctic, could just swoop in with what's called the subsidy drowning strategy. They offer so much investment, so much aid, that Greenland becomes totally dependent on them. And that leads to Step 4. Greenland becomes their client state, a pawn for America's rivals, sitting right there on its northern border.
So to stop that domino effect from ever happening, the US has been quietly playing its own game. And that game is all about 3 powerful motives that turn Greenland from an icy wasteland into one of the most strategic pieces of real estate on the entire planet.
It really comes down to these 3 things. First, its military value as a kind of unsinkable aircraft carrier. Second, its incredible untapped mineral wealth. And third, a new strategic doctrine that basically redefines America's backyard. Okay, let's break each one down.
The first motive is all about simple physics. You see, the shortest path for a ballistic missile from Russia or China to North America is directly over the North Pole. And that puts Greenland smack in the middle of the flight path. So, controlling that island means you control the skies over America. It is an absolutely essential location for missile defense, and it's the key to dominating the entire Arctic.
Now let's talk motive number 2, because this just adds another layer. Buried under all that ice is one of the world's largest untapped deposits of rare earth elements. The minerals you need for literally everything from your smartphone to a fighter jet. Right now, China has a near monopoly on the global supply. If the US could help develop Greenland's resources, it would completely break that monopoly and help secure its economic future for generations.
And finally, motive number 3, which totally reframes the map for us. Some people have started calling it a modern version of the old Monroe Doctrine. This new way of thinking says that the U.S. considers the entire Western Hemisphere its strategic backyard. But, and here's the huge change, this new definition of the hemisphere doesn't just stop at Canada. It draws a line from the southern tip of South America all the way up to Greenland, making Greenland the northern anchor of America's sphere of influence.
So, when you put it all together, the real geography, the power vacuum, those 3 huge motives, it becomes pretty clear that the public offer to buy Greenland was never really the endgame. It was a clever move in a much, much bigger game.
Think of the offer to buy the island as a strategic jab in a boxing match. It was designed to shock everyone: Denmark, Greenland, China, Russia, and to force a global conversation about the island's future that nobody was having. The goal wasn't to actually own Greenland. It was to make damn sure no one else did.
From the American point of view, the choice here is pretty stark. On one side, you have the totally unacceptable scenario, an independent Greenland that falls under the control of China or Russia. And on the other side, you have the non-negotiable goal, a Greenland that, whatever happens, stays firmly aligned with the West and with NATO.
So what does that actually look like? Well, there are really only 2 outcomes the US would be okay with. Option 1, Greenland just stays Danish territory, which keeps it safely inside the NATO alliance. Or option 2, if Greenland does become independent, it has to immediately join NATO as a new member. See? Either way, it's the allegiance that matters, not who holds the deed to the land.
Of course, we can't forget about the 50,000 people who actually live there. They have a say in this too. Their perspective often gets totally lost in this great power chess match. And the overwhelming feeling from Greenlanders is that they just want to continue their quiet, peaceful way of life. They have no interest in being a geopolitical pawn, and they're afraid of losing their unique culture and just becoming another Alaska. And that really brings us to the final thought here. As the Arctic ice continues to melt, opening up brand new shipping lanes and unlocking resources, this quiet little island is becoming the center stage of a global contest. The future of Greenland isn't just about Greenland anymore. It's about who is going to control the top of the world.